I don't think that makes sense at all. And the smartest people in history didn't think it made any sense.
I don't think anyone in history has really thought that.
No.
Until Hiroshima, which was the ultimate expression of godlike power. And that is what killed.
I am the destroyer of worlds.
That's exactly
I'm become
right.
death,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So so if all these young people are becoming Catholic of all unfashionable things, like that's probably the most unfashionable, but by the standards of 30 years ago, becoming a Catholic.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah. This is why I think, the vice president is probably the most famous convert in recent years. And people, his political enemies are always saying, oh, he's cynical. He's just changing his views with the times or whatever. I think, hold on, you're telling me a guy who had a tough upbringing, who graduates Yale Law School, wants to start, is in Silicon Valley, then goes back, he wants to launch a political career in Ohio. The way he thinks he's going to do that is by becoming Catholic? Do you think that's going to help you? No, that's like the craziest thing to do if you were thinking cynically or opportunistically.
Well, it's a radical move,
Yeah.
I guess. And again, I'm not promoting it, I'm not doing it. But I just, as an observer, I'm like, wow, that's pretty wild. So I guess here's my question. It's a political question. If young people are converting to Catholicism, like what else about their views is changing?
Everything.
Okay.
Everything.
So that's my sense.
Well, on the political level, and I think this also touches on part of the conversions, we're beginning to realize that history didn't start in 1965. History didn't start in 1865. History didn't start in 1776 or even 1620. We're part of something that's much bigger and much broader and much more beautiful, and even just in our political order, we used to call it Christendom. Now we call it the West. And there has been an attack on that going back many decades now. I think of Jesse Jackson marching down Stanford, hey, hey, ho, ho, Western Civ has got to go. And people are beginning to realize, it's not that I just want to preserve my town or my 90s liberalism or I want to preserve this great cultural patrimony that I've been given. And that cultural patrimony has to go deeper than just aesthetics. It has to go deeper than just abstract ideology. Cult and culture come from the same root word. So what you worship is going to define your culture. And so what's the bottom? What's the foundation? What's the ballast for all of that? I think people, even beyond questions of conviction of the Holy Spirit and rational arguments and all that, they're just saying, well, this thing's pretty sturdy. It's been around a long time. Belloc keeps coming to mind. He had this line, he says, he said it more eloquently. He said, I'm required as a matter of faith to hold that the church is divinely instituted. But for those who doubt it, one proof of its divine institution is that no other group conducted with such knavish imbecility would have lasted a fortnight. Obviously true.
Yeah, the best thing I ever heard from a practicing Catholic in the last 5 years, there was no one around. It was a very close friend of mine, and he was going on about Catholicism. I was like, okay, but that Pope is I can't, I won't even tell you what I said, but it was hostile because that's how I felt. And he goes,
are you sure you're not Catholic?
No. Yeah. Well, it was the greatest thing ever. He goes, yeah, I totally agree. But he's not the worst Pope we've had.
Yes.
It was completely non-defensive. This happens.
It's like, let me tell you about the 9th century.
I think that's right. If you want to win people over, don't be defensive.
Yes, totally.
Don't tell me that that what I'm seeing isn't real.
Yeah.
Be honest.
Of course. I mean, it is.
Okay, but I don't know that I've talked to too many Catholics about Catholicism. Maybe they all feel that way, but I thought that was just a wonderful response.
Totally. We have to remember that the Pope is fallible, except when he's infallible. And sometimes God gives us bad popes to make us really grateful for good popes. And the other point I'll mention on Francis, because, obviously I had some questions about the Francis pontificate.
Yeah.
I reverted during the Francis pontificate. This trend started during Francis.
Yes.
It might have been in reaction against many of the things that Pope Francis was said to stand for. I don't know exactly how it worked. That's above my pay grade. But you think of like the progress of the church and our whole civilization, and we think of it as just like a straight line. But I think it's a little bit more kind of like this, and the papacy goes to Avignon for a little bit, and there's some king is like arresting the Pope. And, it's like kind of a little bit more circuitous, but it's always pointed in the same direction.
So it just reminds me of God using Pharaoh, blinding Pharaoh to the truth in order to save the Jews from slavery.
Yeah.
Which is what's described. And I always imagine that there's a direct line between the quality of the leadership and the quality of the people.
Of course. This is why I can't
But that's not always true. So as America becomes more prosperous, the people become weaker and sillier.
Yes.
I mean, that's how I grew up. I grew up in the, richest country in history. But there was a steady decline in the quality of thinking, certainly, and of behavior.
And of leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, is it H.G. Wells who said democracy is the theory that, was it? No, I don't know. Who was it? I forget who it was. Who said democracy is the theory that the common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. This is why I can't get into, I have I love the populist movement. I was so into the rise of Trump. I remain into the rise of Trump. Yes. I think this has been the healthiest political awakening in my lifetime. I think I'm all about it. But I can't throw too many stones merely at the leadership class because, one, the civil authority is there for our own good. It's in that way appointed by God in a certain sense. And also, we kind of get the government that we deserve. And if you don't know anything about your country and you don't care about your civic life and you're just going to be greedy, you're either going to, on the left side of things, just indulge in weird social stuff that's purely selfish. And on the right side of things, you get engage in economic selfishness and no one cares about the common good and no one cares about the body politic. Then
that's kind of where we are right there.
Yes. And you're going to get crappy leadership a lot of the time. And sometimes you get a second chance.
So it's just like greed and lust. Those are your choices.
Yes, and this is classic political philosophy going all the way back, which is that greed, avarice, is the beginning of evils in the city, and it's natural, and you have to try.
Worship of money is the root of all evil.
Yes, that's right.
So, okay, have you noticed? I mean, I have a lot of young people who work for me. I have children and all that, but like every month or two, I'll run into like a younger person, like at an airport or something, and always strike up a conversation. And they'll say things that, super nice or whatever, but like you just feel like, wow, the attitudes people are getting, by my middle-aged standards, pretty freaking radical.
It's crazy. I was talking.
Hey, you've had this experience.
For sure. I have always been the most right-wing person in any room.
Me too.
And
I've always been the radical. I'm like, man, yes. I better shut up because my thoughts are not welcome in public at all. And all of a sudden, I'm like feeling a little bit more moderate.
Yes. Well, that's good. Listen, now we can go on TV and say, look, I'm the moderate. Okay.
I've never felt moderate in my life.
I was talking to a professor who is very, very right-wing. And he said, Michael, it's the craziest thing. For the first time in my life, I'm being outflanked by my students. I'm being outflanked. He says, it's never happened before. And now, part of this obviously is like a pendulum was like so far over here, trans your kids and kill the ones that you don't trans. It's going to fly back in the other direction, which is good. That's a healthy impulse. This is where, however, one must have a solid foundation with proper authority and guardrails and everything. Because you need to make sure that you don't fall into the same error on the other side. You want to get back to sanity and reason and be fully in command of your will and your intellect.
And you don't want to center your views on hating people.
You certainly don't want that. You need charity. I mean, St. Paul says, if you don't have charity, you got nothing.
Yeah, well, every wedding service in the country,
right. Yes, of course,
1 Corinthians 13. So, no, I think that's exactly right. But I just wonder, as like a political matter, here's a few of the things that I sense. People feel free to say what they think in a way that is so inspiring and great and refreshing, but also a little shocking because what they think is like not what they're supposed to think at all, or have been supposed to think. I feel like there's a recognition that the whole like let's put women in charge of everything just didn't work.
Cracker Barrel didn't work out.
It didn't work. Wow. Female leadership just didn't work. I mean, I guess I wanted it to work. I don't know how I felt about it, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
And people feel free to say that. There's also, I have noticed from talking to younger people, a recognition that the democracy just kind of isn't working, or our conception of democracy. I don't meet really anybody who uses the term democracy non-ironically.
Yes.
Do you?
Well, when you go back to the framers of our Constitution, you'll recognize that they use the phrase democracy in a derisive way and as a warning of impending peril, because even the notion that our country is a liberal democracy, that is a self-conception that came up in the 20th century. It started a little bit in the 30s. It really took off after the World War, and then it reaches its peak in the 80s. That's when it gets escape velocity. We're not a liberal democracy. We have a democratic element, a healthy democratic element to our country. In large part, I think it comes in because of Tocqueville's great book, Democracy in America,
yes.
Best study of America ever. But even there, our regime is a mixed regime. Our regime has a strong democratic element. As it was initially instituted, it has an aristocratic element in the Senate, and it has a monarchical element in the president. So you even think today, of all the kings around the world, the president of the United States probably has more practical monarchical authority than, say, King Charles, right? Adrian Vermeule made this point the other day. I'm pretty sure the president of the United States is a more robust king than like the king of Norway or whatever. And so our regime, this was intentional, by the way, and it's outlined as the ideal regime in the Summa Theologia, but it goes all the way back to Polybius, this notion that there's a cycle of regimes, because it's a fallen world, and so maybe you have a monarchy, but it's going to degrade over time, and it's going to become a tyranny. What's the difference between a monarchy and a tyranny? A monarchy is for the common good. Tyranny is for private interest. You can have an aristocracy, government by lots of, a small number of good people. That will degrade into an oligarchy. I think we've seen a lot of that in recent years. Common good versus private interest. And you can have a democracy, and a democracy can be quite good. That the virtue of the early American Republic, that can degrade into a kind of mob rule where it's just people pulling for their own factions and their own private interests. And so you're going to have this cycle of revolutions that's going to go on. What the framers of the Constitution tried to do was escape that cycle by instituting a mixed regime, no matter what they called it, a republic if you can keep it, or a constitutional system or whatever. And it has held pretty well. It has been increasingly democratized, so it's probably leaned a little bit too much onto that side. Trump, I think, now is trying to restore, and this is part of a program that had been going on for decades, restore a little bit more executive authority to balance the whole thing out. But regimes fall. That's the norm in world history. And so we are at a real risk of that if we don't correct some of the degradations in our own regime.
So what would that mean? What degradations need to be corrected in order to forestall revolution?
Well, here's one. The 17th Amendment.
I do feel like this country's much more volatile than people publicly acknowledge.
Oh, yeah. The 17th Amendment creates direct election of senators. Today, we say, what would be wrong with that? There's nothing wrong. It's more democracy. Isn't that good?
Have you met the senators?
I've met a lot of senators.
It's the densest collection of douchebags and liars and sex freaks I've ever met in my life. I mean it.
And just wait till you go to the House.
I worked in television. I feel like there are more normal House members, but the Senate, there are some exceptions who guys I like and a lot, but only a handful.
I like that press. Listen, some of my best friends are senators, but a lot of them.
I was just I'm friends with a couple of them, and I say, well, these guys are freaks, man. They're all freaks. Like John Cornyn, what's his search history? No, I'm serious.
I actually don't know John Cornyn. But
if you had a hold of that guy's iPhone, what would you find? Any of these people, Ted Cruz?
I love Ted.
Oh my God.
He's a good friend of mine. He is.
Okay, but I get, but I'm just saying, I'll leave Ted out. I'm not going to attack Ted. I've always liked his wife, but I don't know. Yeah, it's not working.
It's not. And think about how these guys got elected. These guys, it used to be they would be elected by the states, which meant that the states had a role in the government. We're supposed to have states.
Yeah.
We don't really have states.
No, we certainly don't.
They're kind of all vassals for this imperial blob of bureaucracy. But why did we lose that? Antonin Scalia said this to me when I was a student. I got to meet him a couple times, undergrad. And he said, we asked him about states' rights. He said, why are you asking me about states' rights? I'm a Fed. What do I care about states' rights? You got rid of your states' rights in the progressive amendments when you had the direct election of senators. That's states' rights are done.
And the civil rights movement killed it.
Civil rights movement killed it. The implementation of this. Every government office has a civil rights division now. It's like Christopher Caldwell, an excellent guest on your show,
wonderful,
and a great writer,
wonderful guy.
His book, Age of Entitlement, basically proves this thesis that there's a parallel constitution, which is in tension with the old constitution. So you do have a crisis of regime that's coming up. And
how does that play out?
I hope peacefully. I really hope. I think it can play out peacefully. Some people on the right, they'll say, I want a civil war. You heard this a lot during BLM and COVID. So I want a civil war. On the left and the right, they say, I don't want a civil war. If there's a civil war, I'm going to have to shoot my cousins. Do you know what you're saying? I want a civil war. Do you know what a civil war is like? So, Dante is one of my favorite writers. Civil war ruined his life. He said it's like the worst thing that can happen because the whole point of a political community is to secure peace and order for the common good so that we can flourish. And when you crack that, the whole political community is just an extension of a family. It's
the Spanish Civil War ended 85 years ago. And you go to Spain now, they're still mad about it. Mm-hmm. It still divides that country.
Yes.
Greece, same way.
Isn't that so weird? We have to be angry that the communists were defeated. The Bolsheviks who were killing priests and
Spain is a uniquely sad country. It's a wonderful country and wonderful people, but oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That was demonic, obviously.
Obviously.
They began by shooting a statue of Jesus, so that was kind of a sign. But and every evil person in the United States joined. And
yes, what is the Abraham Lincoln Brigade?
Abraham Lincoln Brigades. Exactly.
I remember when I was a kid, I heard that some guy died. He was in the Abraham Lincoln. I said, "Oh, it's the Abraham Lincoln Brigade." I looked into it. I said, "He was a communist."
It was Stalinist.
Yes,
it was Stalinist, like the entire American left was Stalinist.
This is why you talk about the changes in the '60s into the '70s. This is why they had to get Nixon. They never forgave Richard Nixon because he got Alger Hiss. Richard Nixon knew that there were actual communists in the government at the highest levels of the State Department helping to found the United Nations. And he knew it, and he got him dead. And he believed Whittaker Chambers, and he got him dead to rights. They never forgave him for it.
That's totally true. And they made up this whole fake scandal and took out the most popular president in American history.
Yes.
No, I know. It's very but anyway, I guess the point is a civil war has... our own civil war, it's only finally kind of cooling down.
And we're relitigating it.
Well, because Reconstruction never really ended.
Right.
So let's just humiliate the South and turn its cities into slums, which we've done. So it's all, we don't want a civil war.
We don't want a civil war.
So how do we avoid that?
Well, I think we need strong leadership, which we are getting in Trump. We actually do have an executive who on the right who's willing to do things. This has been a big problem for the right because of ideologies that were essentially liberal, where the right said, you need to elect us so that we do nothing. That was their explicit pitch. If you elect me, I won't do anything because I want to principally, with great dignity and integrity and principles, give away all the power. Because if I ever do anything, then the minute the Democrats come into office, they might do all the things they've been doing for 50 years. So we can't have that.
It was National Review Republicanism. Yeah. I was there for that.
Buckley at least. Buckley defended McCarthy for goodness sakes.
He did. He absolutely did.
This is
then he turned on him, but yeah.
At a certain point, it was politically incorrect. But you think of those early days, Brent Bozell, who Ghost wrote "Conscience of a Conservative," an amazing book.
Well, Brent Bozell meant it. Right. So he was exiled.
Yeah.
Because he really meant it. He was mentally ill. Okay.
And he went over after the Spanish Civil War.
Oh, I know.
Of course.
Raised his family in Franco's Spain.
Yeah.
No, I know. He meant it.
But that, look, there's always been this hodgepodge on the right of disparate groups, as you well know, that don't totally make sense together. And so you have the traditional conservatives. Well, the fusionist coalition was the traditional conservatives and the libertarians and some warhawk Democrats who wanted to take down the Soviet Union.
Yes.
And I think it made sense at the time. A common enemy in the Soviet Union.
I was there for that.
Of course. And I
read commentary every month growing up. We got it at home. Yes, we did.
You don't have any copies around here anymore. I don't know where.
I was raised on commentary. We're like this Protestant family getting the official publication of the American Jewish Committee. I read every issue. Arch Puddington, Ruth Vissa, or whatever. I think they all hate me now, but whatever. I grew up reading that.
One of my favorite lines recently was from Norman Podhoretz, who said, "You're the founder of neoconservatism." He said, "No. I'm so old that I'm now a paleo neoconservative. I'm too old for that." And this is, there's the paleos and the neos and the libertarians and the traditionalists and the this is and obscure political monikers are the right-wing version of gender pronouns.
No, it's totally
Everyone's got his own thing. And this is what I love about Trump. Is Trump an ideologue?
No.
What kind of ism does Trump ascribe to?
Trumpism.
Trump, that's what he ascribes to. Americanism, I guess. I don't know. This is a man who's brought together a disparate coalition of like weirdo crunchy hippies and bow tie wearing traditionalists and libertarians and Silicon Valley tech futurists. And like, it's the craziest coalition ever.
Yes.
And he has brought them together and won the popular vote for the first time in 20 years as a Republican. And it's an amazing thing to see in action because he's got a vision and he's just a force of nature. And so the question, I think, on a lot of our minds now, I think this is what all this Trump is dead discourse is about. There was this viral meme that Trump died because he got a bruise on his hand or something. He went to play golf one day. They said he was dead.
No, he's still around.
He's around.
I verified that. Yes, you know, he's still around.
And I think a lot of that is an anxiety of, wow, we got this reprieve from all the craziness and all the decay and all the division. And we won the popular vote. You know, things are on track. And what happens next?
When the patriarch's gone? Well, I mean, you know, what happens in families when it can be really hard.
Yes.
It can be really hard. I have a lot of confidence in J.D. Vance.
Yes, I think he's quite clearly at this point set up the vice president as the successor.
I hope that's right.
It seems like in the cabinet meeting the other day, he said, look, Rubio's done a great job in the 15 jobs that he's doing in the admin. At least 15. But he said in the cabinet meeting the other day, and I noticed it, and no one around me seemed to have heard this line. He goes, everyone was talking about what a great job Rubio was doing. And he said, wow, Marco, you've just been amazing. Frankly, I hope you never run for another office because I want you to do this for the rest of your life. And I said, well, that seems like a win. If those are the two most, not papabile, they're most like presidentialabile, you know, for 2028. So that seems like he's saying, no, the vice president is my natural successor.
Trump drops these bombs in every conversation you have with him. I haven't interviewed him that many times because it's so difficult.
Dizzying.
Dizzying. Because he does the weave famously. But every time I've interviewed him, like 3 days later, I'll think, what, did he just say that right in the middle of right?
Yes.
Yesterday, he was doing an interview with the Daily Caller. Right in the middle of the interview, he was talking about Israel, and I love Israel, and no one's done more for Israel than I've done, and, you know, rooting for Israel. He's very pro-Israel, of course. And then he goes...
they used to own Congress or whatever.
He said that. He goes, you know, the Israel lobbyists totally control Congress like nobody else. That's not true anymore. I'm like, did you just say that?
Yeah. It was amazing. I remember
what?
The interview or the press conference with Netanyahu, this was months ago. And I don't think I was taken in by theatricality. I think this was real when he said, and look, what we're going to do is the United States is going to take over Gaza. And you look at Netanyahu and he looks at Trump and he kind of looks nervously at the audience. He's kind of laughing, but kind of not laughing. And he's like, what is it? He goes, we're going to take over Gaza. We're going to build a big Trump casino there or whatever. I don't know what he's going to do. You know, hey, we're going to build it. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be the Riviera of the Middle East. And it was so apparently out of left field. And I'm not even convinced he's totally sincere on that. I think he's a great negotiator and he's working other angles.
It was weird. I was actually in the Middle East that day when that happened, and I was eating with a bunch of, you know, local residents who run the government in the country I was in. And I'm like, and I was actually sitting at the table and they played that. Everyone's staring at this. And I thought, I don't know, what the hell is that?
Yes.
What do we have to do with Gaza? Like, my instinct is always like, we got nothing to do with this. I'm out.
I'm good.
You know, it's like when girls fight. Like, I don't want to get involved.
I'll take Monaco. I'll take the French Riviera. I don't need the Gaza Riviera.
That's exactly right. But their reaction was, I have no idea if this is true or not, but it was so interesting. They're sophisticated, very sophisticated. And they're like, oh, no, that's an attack on Netanyahu.
Yes.
That was their gut reaction. He's basically tweaking Netanyahu.
It wasn't a haymaker. It wasn't he wasn't collaborating on that. It was a little poke. And
so you think that too?
Yes, I think it was a little poke at Netanyahu.
In what way?
In the sense that it's in the cabinet meeting the other day, Trump was asked, they said, you promised that this war would be over permanently in 5 seconds after you were inaugurated. And so when are we going to get a definitive conclusion to the war? And he laughs. A definitive conclusion. He turns to Steve Witkoff. He says, hey, Steve, how long this conflict, this has been going on thousands of years, is it? Yeah, there's no definitive conclusion. We're just trying to stop the bloodshed. We're trying to establish some kind of peace. And it's this brilliant move because in what other way are you going to get the Israelis and the Arab League and the Iranian regime all united in not liking this one plan? Is by suggesting we're going to go in and take it. And so it's basically an intractable situation. There will not be any permanent resolution probably until the second coming. So what you want to do is just establish some modicum of political order. What I would especially like to see happen is a preservation of the holy sites and pilgrimage access and all that. But we
should demand that. I mean, that's not even. It's like no one owns Jerusalem. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. But there's easier said than done in a messy neck of the woods.
When you're paying for it, you can just be like, look, our first demand is Christians need to be able to visit the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So,
of course.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. It seems to me that the holy sites still seem to be okay. In Gaza, there was unfortunately the attack on St. Porphyrius, which I grant was accidental. I don't think it was. I don't see why, from a strategic perspective, it would be beneficial to the Israelis to particularly stick a finger in the eye of the Christians when America is your last political protector.
There's been a lot of it. I don't know. I don't understand it. I think it's self-destructive behavior, but what I care about is the effect on Christians, and it's just not good at all.
Well, and you have to ask yourself too, okay, what's the conclusion? You could either have the state of Israel take over Gaza again. It had Gaza from 67 until 05, then just gave it away in 05. Hamas gets elected. Hamas runs it for a little bit. And then there's the October 7th attack. Israel's going to say now, okay, this is an unacceptable security risk. We're not dealing with this anymore. So you could have Israel take it over. That's going to be probably an unsatisfactory resolution. You could have the Arab League take it over, some of Egypt take it over. I don't know that they really want to do it. No one wants to touch that hot potato. You could have, and then Trump just drops out of the air. And he says, yeah, we're taking it. And we're going to develop condominiums and we're going to ship all of the residents to South Sudan. That was floated, I think, in the Israeli government. South Sudan, the one place on earth that's less pleasant than Gaza. And I don't think that's going to work out well at all. And what is, I think Trump is totally sincere in what he says. He goes, my solution here is not some permanent answer that will totally make the Israelis happy and totally irritate all the Arabs and the Persians. My answer is not going to totally make the Israelis unhappy and totally satisfy Egypt or whatever, the Arab League. I just want some semblance of peace, which is where I feel totally vindicated on this. I've said for years, when everyone is calling Trump the N-word, they always call him the N-word, a nationalist.
Oh, yeah.
Always. They call him the N-word. And I said, I don't really think he's a nationalist. He loves the nation. He's a great patriot. He supports strong borders. But I said, I don't think he's really a nationalist. I think he's kind of an imperialist. He wants to acquire Greenland and invade Canada. I don't think that's not generally what yeoman farmers do. No,
that's a Teddy Roosevelt move.
Yes. I think his vision of America first is that America will take due care to prioritize her national interests, part of which is accepting the political reality that we're the global hegemon and we need to maintain some modicum of world order. And this goes back to the really ancient conception of the political order, which is that the purpose of empire is to just have peace and order. This is in the Aeneid, in Book 6 of the Aeneid. Aeneas goes down to his dad in the underworld, and the dad gives him this whole view of what's going to happen to Rome. And he says, look, different peoples are given different arts. The Greeks are good at making souvlaki. The Chinese are good at making bad soup, and the Romans,
awful soup.
Awful. I've never even tried. The pangolin is good, but I've never tried the bat. He says the Romans, their art is to govern. And it's not, governing is not fun. It's not the most glorious necessarily thing. In some ways it'd be more fun to be a writer. It'd be more fun to be a poet. It'd be more fun to go, but that's what the Romans are given, is to govern. And it's just a job in the world and someone's got to do it. And you just need to establish relative peace and protect the rights of nations and just keep on keeping on.
Do you think we're suited for that?
I think Trump is quite suited for it as an individual, as a national leader. Is America suited for it? That's not how we started. We weren't looking for it when the country began, but we got it.
I mean, I totally agree. Someone's got to be dad. I mean, that is absolutely just the nature of man, and there's no getting around it. In shirking it doesn't make it go away. So I completely agree with that. That's where I do agree with the neocons, I guess.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but in a different way, because the neocons, at their most extreme, would say we have an obligation because of the demands of history with a capital H to spread liberal democracy around the world.
That's just stupid.
It's crazy.
But the smart, I remember David Brooks, who was impressive. I know it's hard to believe, but at one point when I knew him 30 years ago, was smart. And he would say, look, someone's got to take control because there has to be order at the center. And that's not stupid. Where I began to really hate the neocons, where my whole politics began to revolve around opposing them as an ideology, not as individuals, but just the idea is bad.
Some of the individuals, some of them.
John Podhoretz. But no, it's when I went to Iraq. And the main takeaway for me is we're not good at it.
Yeah.
We're just like leaving aside the dumb spread democracy and all that nonsense, turn Baghdad into Belgium. It's just stupid. But what's not stupid is the idea that you can't have disorder because it metastasizes. And getting there, my assessment, and has not changed in 25 years, is we're not suited for this at all because we don't have the self-confidence required to do it because our society at its core is really thin. There's nothing really there, actually, other than some distorted version of capitalism, which is kind of disgusting.
Do you think that was true, say, in the 50s and 60s, and it's changed? Or?
I think the fight, the Cold War, the battle against the Soviets gave a kind of clarity and purpose.
Yeah.
But even then, the U.S. Sided with the Viet Minh, actually, in 1954 at Dien Bien Phu against the French. Like, there was never really a kind of consistent, that's little known. Yeah, but not even grand strategy, but like a consistent worldview or instinct. Like the English, for all their many faults, at the height of empire, the height of the Victorian period, like they really believed they were superior. Now we deride that as racist. But you have to have that. You have to believe my way is the better way, or why are we doing this in the first place? To extract minerals? Like, that's not, over time, people can't sustain that. You really have to have an evangelical spirit, and we don't have that.
Well, and think about what Trump's been knocked for, especially in the recent Alaska summit. He's been knocked for shaking hands with Putin and, being nice to him.
Yeah.
And I think, well, hold on. We've tried the other way. W. Bush tried to talk a little tough, or tried to be sweet and then talk tough. And Putin invaded Georgia. And then Obama, oh man, he talked tough. After the reset failed and Hillary Clinton couldn't spell a simple word in Russian, then that failed and he talked really tough. Oh boy, was he tough. And Putin invaded into Crimea. And then you had Trump and everyone just kind of chilled. And then you had Biden. Man, no one talked tougher than Biden, huh? Oh, didn't he have such moral clarity? And Putin invaded further into Ukraine. But the world order collapsed.
Moral clarity thing is a clarity. If you think that Joe Biden was a better leader or a better man than Vladimir Putin, like, I don't even know what to say to you. That's insane. There's by no measure, did Joe Biden's country, the people he solemnly swore to help and defend, did they thrive? No, they withered. Putin, who's been there for 25 years, his country's improved. The people are happier. They like him, actually.
The war's been a little tough on Putin.
The war's, of course, it's been tough. Of course, it's been tough.
I'd be curious about public opinion today, this far into the war.
Well, actually, it's measured a lot. Yeah, look it up. And you can say, oh, that's all a lie. Okay, well, show me one.
Yeah.
Okay, go there.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not moving to Russia, but I mean, Putin has been the most effective leader in my lifetime. I can't think of a more effective one.
He's been a very stable leader for Russia.
But why is he more evil than Joe Biden?
Yeah, well,
I can't even conceptualize that. Like,
you could say, look, I don't know his religious views, but he's promoted Christianity within Russia
aggressively.
Yes, to combat liberalism and all these other forces. Joe Biden has imprisoned pro-lifers and sued nuns.
Well, so exactly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But whatever.
But I guess the reason that I kind of pull away a little bit from this is kind of neocon-y to me, is the sort of the purely good and evil in statecraft.
I totally agree with that.
And to me, I think, well, look, I'm on the side of my country, even if Joe Biden is running it, which is a great pity if he is. And I am because it's...
Dude, I'm with you.
Of course. Patriotism is an extension of filial piety. Just like, all liberalism comes down to saying, screw you, Dad, like I hate my mom or whatever. And I think, no, we are called to respect our parents and to love our countries. And Russia has interests that are not aligned with ours. And they have missiles pointed at us. And you think, well, okay, Putin, for all of his sins, Putin is defending the interests of Russia. Uh-huh. And I think there was a sense. Look, Biden would say he was defending the interests of the United States or NATO or whatever. He didn't do a very good job at it, at the very
By the way, NATO, yeah, exactly.
And this is why you'll notice Trump doesn't use this good and evil language all the time. And the way he talks about Putin, he says, look, Putin has interests. He has hard interests.
That's how I feel.
And I have hard interests. And I'm good. If I can be a little diplomatic with him, I'm going to do it. I'm reminded of, do you remember the Jeffrey Goldberg article in The Atlantic, which said, it was the Obama doctrine. This was back in 2016.
I'll never forget it.
This piece, and what's so funny now is...
It was a fascinating piece.
Fascinating piece.
Goldberg is a liar. I know him, and one of the most dishonest people I've ever met. Truly dishonest, but a very talented prose stylist.
Yes, and it's like and
an interesting reporter.
Page.
Oh, I read every word of that piece.
In that piece, they are lauding Obama for saying things like, Russia's always going to have a strong interest in Ukraine.
I remember.
They're always going to have escalatory power. Trump says the exact same thing, and all these people.
By the way, Obama, who I think kind of wrecked America, comes off as pretty reasonable in that piece. Just being honest.
Yes.
I mean, if you read that piece now and just like take Obama out and just put another name in there, it's like I kind of agree with most of this.
And Trump is saying most of those.
I know.
And there's one big difference. Trump can actually implement it. And Obama couldn't really implement it.
Of course
the world order was fraying under him. And so it is so ironic that these people who, accuse Trump of being like a KGB agent or whatever, that these people would knock Trump for saying the same thing that they were parroting for years.
Well, they're all just children. Like, these are not... They're the people who told you that Russia was a gas station with nuclear weapons. People like John McCain, like 95 IQ and his sad... idiot daughter. I mean, these are just like not...
I've gotten along with the daughter. I never met John McCain.
She's fine. I mean, and McCain was charming in his way. I mean, I love McCain, actually, when I knew him well, but a very charming guy, but like
he did
not a serious person at all.
He killed the repeal of Obamacare, which is very difficult to get over.
No, but he just wasn't serious. He was just a shallow wasp.
And he was one of the last of the true hawkish anti-Russia. Coming out of the Cold War, though he was younger, you just got to bomb. You just got to implement your will.
It was this deep. I mean, I spent a lot of time talking to the guy on the road, traveled to various countries with him, knew him, I think, as well as I've ever known a politician. And there was so much to like about the guy. He just really was a charming, very aristocratic bearing, hilarious, vulgar in a way that I always enjoy. But if you pushed him on any issue, like he hadn't spent 15 minutes thinking about anything.
Yeah, this is something you notice on Capitol Hill generally, is there are some people who are very intelligent and decently well-read. A lot of them, though, their skill is not doing a lot of reading. That's not the skill that's like...
Dude, I went to boarding school. I know what that is. That's like memorize 3 famous quotes, throw them out like you've read the whole book.
Yes.
And that was McCain, man. He... On any question, including the foreign policy questions he was supposedly an expert on, he knew nothing. To say Russia's a gas station with nuclear weapons, like you're an idiot.
This is the nation of, like Tolstoy.
Oh my God, the Winter Palace.
Dostoevsky.
St. Petersburg, right, all right. There's no city in Europe, there's certainly no city in the United States that approaches their two main cities.
Well, this is what was fascinating. I mean, I'm now remembering.
It's just a fact.
And the fact that you got to interview Putin.
Yeah.
And when you listen to that interview, this is a man, say what you will about his yarn that he spun. It was a very compelling yarn. He had a view of his own country that was a very strong view. And I wonder, look, Trump in his own way tells a story about America. He hugs the flag, he kisses the flag. He's got it really in his gut. How many American statesmen today, after all these decades of just dissolution and hatred of country, how many of them can tell a compelling story about what the country is, why we ought to love the country beyond mere filial piety, and where we're going? How many of them are there?
It's hard. I mean, because who are the American people? That's the question. And that's what really bothers me as someone who is not a race guy. And I don't think your DNA should determine the course of your life or the nation you live in. I just don't. I'm American. I'm from California. I don't feel that way. However, all of history suggests I'm wrong. Because when Putin talks about Russia, he's talking about the Russian people whose DNA you can map. And they're the indigenous population.
He's not talking about the Chechens? Or
he's not.
No,
by the way, he gets along with them really well.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, he's got 20% Muslim population. He's promoting Christianity, but the Muslims all like him. Like, how do you do that?
Yes.
Don't try that at home. It's hard.
And it's a skill that is, this is why I keep coming back to empire, is because our country looks more like an empire than it does like a yeoman republic. Russia certainly looks like an empire. It's got it's spanning a continent. It has all these peoples. And so on this question, which is...
But we don't even know who lives here.
Yeah.
Trump said to me recently, we think there are about maybe 50 million people here illegally.
Yeah.
50 million? I mean, but no one knows. The President of the United States doesn't really know. We've got facial recognition technology, but somehow we can't know who lives here.
Yes.
And so when you talk about my country, are people who you can't even visualize who they are.
Yes. And this gets, I mean, you just said, look, I'm not a race guy.
I'm not a race guy,
yeah, of course
actually.
Not. But when you
I'm a sexist, not a racist. I always say that. No one believes me.
I think about sex all the time, actually.
I do too.
But when you think, what is America now, in 2025? There was this line where it's, America's just an idea, or diversity is our strength, or what, all these kind of slogans from the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
You think, well, no, it's not. A country is not just an idea. There is a critical aspect,
yeah.
But it's not like an idea floating in outer space. What are you talking about? And so there has to be a real grappling with, okay, well, look, a country is also geography. Like there is no America without the rivers, for instance. Okay, it's not, the rivers aren't just an idea.
You're speaking to a fly fisherman now, Mr. Knowles. Yes,
it's not a country without trout. It's not a country without the oceans, and it's not a country without people. And this also is where
someone can just like show up from Delhi and like start lecturing me about American values.
Yes,
can't even speak American English. And no one says anything like, hey, son, settle down. You just got here. Don't start lecturing someone whose family's been here 400 years about what America is. Then there's kind of no America, actually, at that point.
Of course. And so this is where even the grappling with ethnicity, like what we've come out of this very liberal period where we have been told there's no such thing as ethnicity or race or anything like that. And
but simultaneously, it's the most important thing.
Yes. Yes. And we need to
all that matters is race, but it doesn't exist.
Yes. Okay. And the reality is, again, to this kind of via media, it's okay. It's okay when Joe DiMaggio hit a home run. It's okay that the Italian Americans in New York got a special little thrill out of that. It's okay. They say, that guy kind of looks like me and he hit that home run. That's kind of, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with recognizing that there are differences between peoples. There are two simultaneous errors, which we fall into. It seems actually at the same time, which is we say ethnicity means nothing at all whatsoever, and ethnicity is totally deterministic and means everything. And the reality is, I mean, this is where our Christian heritage, Christianity, which animates the whole civilization, comes in. Is you say, no, we are in a very real way all children of God. Like in a very real way, there's only one race, the human race, or whatever like the liberals like to say.
Right.
There is that is true. And also there is vibrant diversity among peoples, and that's fine to acknowledge.
God created that.
God created
different peoples.
As long as that is ordered toward charity, as long as a proper love of that which is similar to one is not ordered toward cruelty and is ordered within charity for the common good, yeah, that's called having a country, of course. We're not allowed to say that now?
Yeah, I just feel like it's gotten, I don't know. They've been so tough on whites for so long.
Yes, of course.
So cruel to whites that I think like there's a crazy backlash coming.
Without question.
Yeah, well-deserved backlash.
It's already happening.
Is it?
I think so. And as Tucker, I'm part Sicilian.
Not a non-white people.
A racially liminal people. We Sicilians.
I love Sicilians.
Children of the Mezzogiorno, yes. And so you get a kind of look at it, which is, even early on, I got these WASP ancestors and I got some Irish ancestors in there. The Italians came in a little bit later. And so there's a little mixing of all of Europe in there. And the reality is, in order to have a sense of a country, you do need to have some kind of a sense of a common people. And so to your point on the guy from Delhi, it's not even that the guy from Delhi can't be like quite American 3 generations from now, but you can't just like land in a place and because you read a book about America or because you watched a YouTube video, you just totally get America. To have a country is to have a lived experience that is passed sometimes ineffably, without words from generation to generation. I'm looking around your house here. I mean, there's like pretty old stuff and you just kind of do it. And there are habits that are inculcated in people's and there are inclinations that the American people have observed by Tocqueville back in the 19th century that they're not even aware of, that it takes some random Frenchman to come in and notice it.
I totally agree.
So you gotta be very careful. But
I just want to be clear, since I have a million Indian friends and actually like India a lot as a country.
You hate the Indians. You want to be very clear.
I'm like probably the most pro-Indian right-winger you'll ever meet, but sincerely. But it's not even lecturing, but showing up and lecturing me about what it is to be an American. It's showing up and attacking whites.
Yeah.
And boy, did you see a lot of that. And it wasn't just Indians, but like immigrants would show up, taking all these benefits from the country and the permanent population here, and then start immediately attacking whites. Now, they attack whites because they were encouraged to do that by a ruling class. Like they got into Stanford.
The schools.
100%. And then they get to Stanford and it's like, oh, you want to succeed, you have to attack the whites.
Yeah.
And they're status oriented. All immigrants just like want to fit in and want to get the merit badges that this society demands they get. And one of those merit badges required them to denounce whites. And I felt like that is the most destructive thing that you could ever do.
I have a solution to this though. My solution to this, we're always told, it's all just got to be kind of organic from the culture and the people. And that's politics is purely downstream of culture and whatever. I have a little more of a classical political view of that. I think people respond to incentives.
Well, that's exactly right.
When you mention these institutions, I think, and Trump is very good at this, beating up Harvard, I think was a brilliant political attack. You see some of that in Florida, taking in some of the universities. It's happening around the country. I'll give you Pete Buttigieg. I don't know Pete Buttigieg.
The fake gay guy?
I have a friend who thinks he's a fake gay. Or is his
my gay producer was always like, he's not gay. He was with a girl like 20 minutes ago and like, he wants to be the Democratic nominee. It's like time for a gay guy.
It's playing the long game. I mean, that's going down. Look.
Well, it's suffering for your art. I'll say that.
Just because I don't know him, I know 100 Pete Buttigiegs. I know this character.
Oh, I do too.
And he went to the elite school, and then he goes to McKinsey, and then he does the checks. And I think
then finds some benighted Midwestern town that he can just like become mayor of.
Plop, I'm a mayor now. Talk about I was talking to a big Democrat figure, and he said, say what you will about Pete, he's the greatest careerist we've ever seen. You're mayor of this tiny town. You become the Secretary of Transportation.
No, but of course. But the town kind of sucks. Actually, he didn't do a good job. If it didn't have the college there. But I've always wanted to interview him. He's never agreed to interview, but I'm going to ask him like some very specific questions about gay sex and see if he can even answer. I doubt he even knows.
Where does...
Yeah, no, totally.
I don't...
I'm not gay, dude. Stop.
Think about Pete Buttigieg. If we controlled the universities, if we controlled the culture, and if the incentives in the corporations and all of the DEI offices, we can rename them, if all the incentives were not to be like America hating, gay, liberal,
totally.
Pete Buttigieg, I am convinced, this is purely my gut telling me this. He would be like waving the stars and bars, 100%. Doing dip, like whatever incentive were there, he would go to it. And so I think this is where the Trump, a little more muscular view of politics comes in. He says, no, forget about this stupid, everything's just going to be organic. That's never how culture has changed. We're going to go in, I'm going to pummel Harvard into the dirt. I'm going to go in, I'm going to pummel these bureaucracy, the Kennedy Center, whatever, and I'm going to create new incentives such that the best and the brightest and the most ambitious are incentivized to like our country and do good stuff.
It's totally right. I'm at the inauguration, January 20th, sitting there, and it was indoors I can't remember why, but I'm sitting there chatting away, of course, sat next to Laura Ingraham, gossiping about Fox, and all of a sudden I look up and there's Jeff Bezos sitting like right in front of me.
Yes.
What's Jeff Bezos doing here? And then all these people fire and
Tim Cook, Sundar Pichai.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. I noticed all of a sudden after the inauguration, after the election really, my phone starts ringing from news networks that have never been interested in talking to me before.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all of a sudden, some of the big corporations that we work with my show, they're more interested in helping us. And, they want to make sure our experience, I said, oh, this is what power is.
Yeah.
And it is incumbent upon statesmen on the happy occasions that they get power from the people, that they actually use it in a good way and make hay while the sun shines.
So we have a couple of viewer questions. We've never done this before, but it's the internet.
I'm in.
Okay. Lots of people asked this one, my producer said. Michael Knowles, do you miss working with Candace Owens?
Well, I still see Candace all the time because, I'm the godfather to Candace's daughter.
Actually?
Yeah. I'm the godfather to Candace's daughter. I'm very good friends with her husband. And, it's kind of weird for a married guy to hang out with. Yeah. We're, have many Mayflower cigars, over the time. And I don't see Candace at work obviously anymore, but I do see her at church. She actually goes to the earlier mass than I do because she converted. She came into the church like a year or something ago. And in fact, I was the godfather to her daughter before she came into the church. And then all those smells and bells just kept pulling her in. And there was one time I was invited to the baptism of their next kid, and I just couldn't make it. I was visiting my grandma or something. And people kept telling me, like, no, you should really come. I was like, no, look, I mean, I love the Farmer family, but I got to go see my granny, whatever, And they kept, I said, what's this about? I don't know. They have like a kid every 6 months. So like, they'll have another one soon. And, but then I found it was because she was being baptized and she wasn't telling anybody. So anyway, she came in, and now at least I get to see her at Mass. So
people love her. It is wild.
She has actual star quality. She has this thing. She could tell me something. She could tell me something not only that I don't agree with, she could tell me something about myself that, like, she'd tell me I have blonde hair, and I would just, the whole time, I'd just be like, go on, tell me everything.
It's wild. I mean, I was telling this off air, but I just want to say it. I was in Oslo, Norway last week, salmon fishing with my kids, and I'm walking back from dinner with one of my kids in downtown Oslo, and this guy goes, Tucker Carlson? Yes. You know Candace Owens? I was like, yes. He goes, tell her that I love her. And I was like, how famous do you have to be where people will come up to you on the street just because you know somebody else?
Where people will come up to another very famous guy.
No, it had nothing to do with me at all.
You say, oh, hey, hi, I'm Tucker, by the way.
It didn't. No, I was so impressed by it that it didn't hurt my feelings at all.
That is unbelievable.
But yes, the main thing that he liked about me was that I knew Candace Owens. I was like, wow, that's devotion. So I was impressed. I called her. I said, wow, man, you're really at another level.
Got to start trying that at restauants. Can I get a free dessert or something?
Exactly. I know Candace Owens.
Come on.
Not my birthday, but okay, this is an interesting one. This is a question. I think I've inadvertently led my two sons, ages 25 and 23, to have a mindset to put off having a family. I think I've made a mistake. How do I convince them to hurry up, get married, and have kids?
The answer that I would, or the evidence that I would need here is how old the kids are.
23 and 25.
You got, okay, 23 and 25. Yeah, you should get serious. You should. I mean, these days you'd be like a child groom at that age, but you need to start getting serious. I guess the reason is this.
I had a kid at 25.
Yeah. I mean, people used to get married. I have a good friend, very successful guy, though he struggled for a long time. 6 kids, got married at 20 or 19 or something, and started spitting out kids right away. And the way to maybe present this to your sons is we screw up everything in modern life. We just get everything perverted or inverted or wrong. And we now view marriage as the capstone to our lives.
Exactly.
We say, now that I've had sex with 100,000 people and I've made $1 million and now that I've done everything, traveled all over the world, now I'm going to get married. And that
I have drug-resistant chlamydia.
Now that I have drug-resistant chlamydia and my brain is half melted, now I'm going to get married. And you think, okay, that's not what marriage is. Marriage is when two people leave their families, come together and become one flesh and do something together. And so it's really supposed to be more like the beginning of your life.
Right.
But here's a real practical reason why you shouldn't do it that way. I married my high school sweetheart. You married your high school sweetheart.
Yes, I did.
And highly recommend it. And I've seen many, many good marriages where people married their high school sweetheart because it's like our bones. When you grow, your bones are kind of agile and malleable and they grow.
Yeah.
And then they harden.
Yes.
And then it's really hard when two people harden into their own ways to mash that together. But if you're still kind of young and a little more malleable, even in your 20s, you're starting to really harden your views. You need to do that in such a way that you're fused together. So, I mean, to me...
No, it's right.
The notion of divorce...
Men get really rigid, too, as they get older, living alone.
Yes. Get weird.
Oh, so weird.
Get weird. And I'm entirely opposed to divorce. I would not divorce under any circumstances. I know people do it. I know it happens. It's a fallen world. But it seems to me that if you're a whole set person and you marry someone and you sign a prenup and you keep separate bank accounts and you're kind of setting yourself up to prepare for when you're just going to crack apart. But if you do it a little bit younger and you're just totally enmeshed,
go all the way.
It's unthinkable. Yeah.
I also think, young men especially are really concerned about the economy, which has basically been designed to exclude them. And they feel like they're not going to be able to succeed and provide for their children the lives that they had from their parents. just as a math question, getting married is like, there's a lot of research on this, is the single most effective thing you can do to be more successful.
Yes. Yes, of course. I was talking to a buddy of mine, even with the kids, when I had it took us a couple of years, and then we had our first kid. I said, I hope I have enough money. I hope
Oh, you will.
Yes. My friend said that babies are like little money bags. You just make more. You just make it work. Yes.
When I had my first, I was working at the Weekly Standard. Hard to believe I ever worked there, but for Bill Crystal, I know it's so shocking, but
he was a teacher of mine. We have that in common.
Bill Crystal was a teacher of yours?
I did one of these fellowships, like a summer fellowship. He taught me, like Machiavelli or something. And to think now, now his publications have taken shots at me over the years.
Oh,
and I just think, man, where'd you lose the plot, buddy?
I don't know what happened. I don't know. It's distressing, but I think he kind of collapsed inside as a person. Depressing. It can happen, by the way. You have to be on guard against it. But anyway, I remember I had this editor called Richard Starr, who was such a nice man. And I had this child at 25, and he goes, your life's going to change. And I was like, everyone says that. What do you mean? And he goes, when you have a child, especially when you're young, you realize you will do whatever it takes to provide for that child. You need to rob a fucking liquor store?
Yes.
No problem.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, that's so true.
It even made me...
Not that I ever robbed any liquor stores, but like I
But you might have.
Yeah.
I might still. When we got married, I was a little old. I was maybe 27 when we got engaged, 28 when we got married. I kind of wish we'd gotten married younger. We were kind of moving, we're long distance, all this stuff. And it's all works out in Providence, but it's one regret I have. My wife says it too, we should have got married younger and started having kids younger. And I remember though, I started my show after I got married, or right around the time I got married. And I thought, man, thank goodness I'm not single in this career in particular, because you're probably, can you imagine? And all you do is just like stay up late and go drink and screw around. And and when you're married and you have kids, you have a sense of purpose that you're doing things for something.
Of course. And if you're under like real stress, if you have, the kind of performing in public or whatever, any job where you're like under pressure and you feel like you're on a tightrope all the time. But if you didn't have a wife, I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah. I almost...
They all melt down. You need a wife.
Yes. You do. Even my wife she'll sometimes do my show. She'll listen to my show. She'll go, Mac, you were a little bit kind of lib over there. You kind of went a little squishy. I'll be like, man, you're she's like the rock solid one.
Well,
and she's the only person I'll ever let write some of my show. Because she gets it.
Really?
Yeah. It's not, she was no political nerd or anything like that, but she has a very conservative disposition.
Yeah.
And she just has this gut instinct.
When moms go right wing, boy, they're not dicking around at all. I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
Members of Congress who I respect 100% have wives who are like, what? No.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes. No, I can think of a couple of them. Okay, last question. This is kind of a weird one. Michael, do you detest boomers as much as Tucker seems to? I was born in 1951. What's the main thing I ought to do or stop doing to help improve life here in the United States?
So this is a boomer, I take it.
This is a boomer. Yeah, 1951. Baby boom, 1946, 1964.
Yeah.
I think.
The boomers have attracted a lot of ire.
Yes.
Rightly so. My defense of the boomers is they came from somewhere.
Yeah.
They came from somewhere. So even, our grandparents' generation.
And they're human beings. I don't mean to talk about them like they're animals.
No, but things went really screwy during the boomer generation.
You think?
You might have noticed. And I think what it has come down to is an ideological selfishness. I'm not even saying, a lot of boomers, like they have all this stress and anxiety for their kids and the future. And
yes.
they have, so it's not like even a personal selfishness. It's an ideological selfishness that says, hey, I'm going to, do what you want. Hey, follow your bliss. Do what makes you happy. And I would say that came from a good place for a lot of the boomers who are a little hippy-dippy, whatever. I don't think that's helpful to kids. I actually think a little bit more clarity is better. Clarity is charity. And I think a little bit more on the guardrails, a little bit more of saying, hey, son, don't just follow your bliss. You're doing something
ideological selfishness. Boy, I've never thought of that. That is really smart because it is, of course, it's true that boomers, which again is everybody born between, the end of World War II and just before Woodstock, there are a lot of nice people who really care about their kids and grandkids.
But
it's ideological.
Yes, they can't even. What are you talking about? If I were to say that right is right and wrong is wrong, well, that would be I don't know, authoritarian or judgmental. Yes, yeah. And you think, well, you have to make judgments in life, and sometimes parents actually do know what's best for their kids, and you just need to, I think, have the confidence to state that, have the confidence to help your kid, even if it might make him angry in the short run.
That's a really smart point. Let me just end by asking you, because I'm legit interested. How did you get into the tobacco business?
Can I offer you one? I don't want to make you smoke at 10 o'clock in the morning. But
I'm going shooting after this. I'm going to burn one of these.
Okay, great. All right.
Can't wait.
I have loved cigars since I was 15, which is a little old to start in New York as an Italian American. But I was,
Totally. If I ever get rich, I'm going to start a Nicotine for the Children Foundation just to make sure that they have enough. I'm serious.
It's charity.
There's couldn't agree more.
Of course. I was 15 and I never liked cigarettes. But I loved cigars. And a family friend gave me one when I was 15. I really liked it. And I would go grocery shopping in the Bronx, in the Italian neighborhood. And they had these guys rolling the cigars. And I was too young to buy them. So they would just give them to me. They'd give me 4 a week. And I smoked them. I wrote my college admission essay about how much I loved cigars. I called it The Count of Monte Cristo. Because they said, write about something you're passionate about. I'm very passionate about cigars.
They let you into Yale, one of the cigar essay?
I probably wouldn't have worked out today.
Damn.
Yeah. Better than writing about my
Your parents
views.
Big donors?
They were not. Safe to say they were not. And so the story of this company, I wanted to start that for a long time because despite my swarthy appearance, I do have this kind of WASP Mayflower ancestry. And I said, I want it to be Mayflower. I want it to be patriotic, but I don't want it to just be like, guns and fried chicken cigars. I want it to be a little more elevated, but
yeah.
And there's this paradox with the Mayflower, which is kind of like the founding stock. On the one hand, they're blue blood elites. On the other, these are salt of the earth people.
Yeah, they're
farmers,
rugged
weirdos, kind of booted out of England. Yeah. And I said, I like that paradox because cigars are a luxury, but they're also very accessible. You can have an amazing cigar for like $12,
Yes.
And so I said, I want it to be that. And I wanted to work with a particular company. When I was a kid, my mother, shortly before she died, gave me a box of Oliva cigars, Oliva Series O, Robusto, for Christmas.
Yeah.
We did not have a lot of money, and this was a really nice present. When she died unexpectedly, I still had half the box. And I said, all right, well, these are special. I need to save them for special occasions. Graduate high school, get married, first kid, that kind of thing. Maybe I'll give some to my kids if I have any left over. This is providential. I was trying to start the cigar company. It was kind of tough, Daily Wire was allowing me to kind of explore this and use the platform to start a cigar company. I said, oh, great. But what do I know? I don't know anything about starting that. I'm backstage at a TV show, and a guy calls out to me and says, hey, Knowles, you're a cigar guy, right? I said, yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, I got this cigar. You got to come by this cigar club that I'm a member of. I said, oh, that's a great idea. I don't know him. He goes, yeah, I'll give you one of mine. It's an Oliva, rebanded Oliva. I said, do you know Oliva cigars? He said, yeah. I said, I can't get in touch with them. He goes, I'll put you in touch. I said, well, that's fortuitous. 15 minutes, we have the deal for production and distribution for a test cigar. Only because of a happenstance of business, it basically couldn't have worked with any other company. We go through it, we blend. I'm blending meticulously. I wanted to go to Nicaragua, had a little trouble getting into the country of Nicaragua. I'm blending it for long distance, all this. We finally launch it.
Now, how hard is it to get to the right blend?
If you're obsessive, if you're horrifically obsessive, I was such a terrible person to work with.
That's the way to be.
But you have to be. Because I said, with those, look, this is something I care about. I'm not really doing this primarily to make money. I'll make money other ways. I'm doing this because this is a thrill. I've wanted to do it for 15 years. And I landed on a Connecticut blend, which is the Mayflower Dawn. It's kind of the more mainstream one. The Mayflower Dusk, which is an Ecuador Habano wrapper. That was really blended just for my tastes. And a double Maduro, the Mayflower Dream. Comes from a painting by William Halsall of the Mayflower in Plymouth Harbor. And it's an orange sky. And you can't tell if the sun is rising or setting on America. Which I love this ambiguous painting. Are we getting it tomorrow or is the light going out? And I said, that's what I want it to be. Dawn, dusk, and dream. We get the cigars. The cigars are made at the same factory that made the box that my mother gave me.
No way.
Yeah. How do you plan that? Talk about providence. How do you plan that?
That's wild.
Yeah. And
Do you smoke them?
All the time.
You smoke your own brand?
Oh, yes. They were actually made for my taste. And they are, I say with no false modesty and true humility, they're exquisite. And so we've got 3 lines now. I even made I was so brutal about it. I made these little mini ones. I call them Mayflower Compacts. They're little petite Coronas.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Thank you. And they're premium hand rolled long filler, so it's not a cigarillo or something. I just love them, and they sold out immediately, which is a good problem to have because I sold like 4 months supply in one day, and was out of stock for Black Friday, out of stock for Christmas. Fine, we're picking up production. We're in retail stores. This brings us all the way back to the top of our conversation, because one of the reasons I started this company is I want people, especially guys, to get out in the physical world and spend time together and speak. The best conversations I've had in my life are over cigars.
I agree.
And I want them to do that, not be in their rooms, not be just on Zoom. I want them to be in this and to recognize, thus passeth the glories of the world, sic transit gloria mundi. 45 minutes, you have your conversation, then it's over. And you can light another one, maybe tomorrow. But I think it's instructive. And it's whatever people say about the health effects of cigars. I have always found, and I think this quotes, was it George Burns or someone, that I've taken more out of cigars than cigars have taken out of me.
I feel that way very, very strongly about tobacco. Can you just like start a cigar company and start selling them? Do you have to go through FDA hoops or?
It's so hard. And through sheer providential blessing, I was able to leapfrog over a lot of that. It still took me over a year, basically, to go from beginning the deal to launching. To get them into stores is almost impossible.
Why?
I started, because of all these stupid regulations. If I started a pot company, I'd probably be in 57 states in the country.
For sure.
Yes. It's very difficult. Certain states I just can't do business in. I wish I could. I have stores begging me for them. I just can't. I can't.
Why?
The regulations are so brutal. I mean, certain places are trying to ban smoking just like forever. Massachusetts, tried to set a date after which you could just never buy tobacco. So it kept aging with you. So crazy stuff like that. California's awful on the regs. And so we're trying to sneak them out as best we can.
It does seem like tobacco should be part of the backlash.
Of course.
Is it?
Well, it's the American crop, first.
Yes.
Helped build the country. Washington grew it.
Where did it come from?
The American South.
The American Indians.
And originally, that's right.
Yeah, it's not native to Europe. It's native to North America.
And you know who really discovered it was Christopher Columbus.
I know.
I grabbed the Taino Indians. They would smoke them up their nose, which I don't think I've ever tried. But yes.
The 2 things he took away, in addition to corn, tobacco and syphilis.
Yeah. And I don't sell syphilis.
Or have it. Michael Knowles, that was great.
Tucker, thank you for
having me.
And
I really, really appreciate it. And it's great to see you after 6 years, totally vindicated. You're not the disgusting one, Michael Knowles.
Thank you, Tucker, and thank you for your help.
Oh my gosh. It was nothing. Thank you. So it turns out that YouTube is suppressing this show. On one level, that's not surprising. That's what they do. But on another level, it's shocking. With everything that's going on in the world right now, all the change taking place in our economy and our politics, with the wars we're on the cusp of fighting right now, Google has decided you should have less information rather than more. And that is totally wrong. It's immoral. What can you do about it? Well, we could whine about it. That's a waste of time. We're not in charge of Google. Or we could find a way around it, a way that you could actually get information that is true, not intentionally deceptive. The way to do that on YouTube, we think, is to subscribe to our channel. Subscribe. Hit the little bell icon to be notified when we upload and share this video. That way you'll have a much higher chance of hearing actual news and information.